tell us about your journey and what's been, how did it get started? And
Yeah, it's been probably the better part of about 10 years now. As you mentioned, my wife and I, we got married in 2016, but just about a year or about 18 months prior to that, we purchased our first property together in Sydney, western suburbs of Sydney, out past Penrith. A unit sort of townhouse. It was a nice little sort of location, entry point sort of property for us at that point in time. The price point was really what we were after. It was before the Sydney market really took off and went overly crazy as it is now. So we sort of jumped into that. I guess prior to sort of doing that, we had sort of met with, as you said, people like Jeremy. I remember meeting with you all those years ago because you're obviously originally from Sydney as well, and just sort of talking about what we wanted to get out of it, like why we were doing the property sort of investing or the property buying sort of process versus renting and these sorts of things. And I guess we just really sort of came back to the fact that, you know, we're talking 10 years ago now, as I said, so that puts me probably in my sort of mid to late 20s at that point in time. You know, and prior to that, hadn't bought any property. It was probably very similar to a lot of young guys, travelled, played a lot of sport. So I was sort of very busy with life and those sorts of things, and wasn't investing in property in my early 20s. Looking back now, I wish I had. But anyway, you can't sort of change the past. But yeah, so fast forward, wanted to have that goal of PPOR paid off and living in a situation where we had flexibility and options by sort of early to mid 40s. That was the sort of goal. So 45 was sort of a number we put on it. Obviously, we understand things change and life throws curveballs at you. But we bought that first property, as I mentioned, and we were able to we bought that while we were still living at home, with our parents.
And did you use LMI to get into your first property?
Yes. So it was a 10% deposit from what I can remember. It might have been 10, might have been 15%. Can't exactly remember, to be honest, but we absolutely used LMI, and that got us into the market. We were still living at home, and then we rented that property out for a while, about 12, 18 months, and then around the time that we got married, we sort of moved the tenants on, and then we moved in, changed the flooring, painted, did a few other little bits and pieces to make it sort of suitable for us to live in. And then obviously after we got married, we moved in and we stayed there for a few years. In that time, the property value, the city market started really moving. So I feel like we were really lucky or strategic, timed it right, however you want to look at it. We got in at a good time and we were able to take some equity from there, and we purchased a property up here in Brisbane in Deception Bay. That was sort of circa 2017, 2018. And that was really, really well timed as well.
It was the time to buy, late 2010s.
Yeah, we still hold that property today, and it's done really well for us. And also at that time, we were able to sort of come up with funds to purchase a property not too far from where we bought our original property in that sort of area of Sydney, Amy Heights, and that's our current principal place of residence. So what we did with that one, we bought that while we were still living in the townhouse. We were able to once again use equity and leverage off the properties that we had, LMI. But we were able to sort of once again purchase that 4-bed, 2-bath home, corner block, just shy of 800 square metre block for around that 700K price point, which when you think about Sydney prices now, it's quite larger than that. So
100%. So you're PAYG, you're a teacher, your wife's a teacher as well.
Yes.
She's been working part-time since you had the kids.
Yes. Yeah, for the last probably 5.5 to 6 years. Our eldest is almost 6. So I guess when you factor in the maternity leave that she took just prior to having her, and then since that point in time, so let's just call it 6 years.
So
she's
with
been
that,
working part-time,
So looking at that, the way I see this is someone who is not on, doesn't earn $500,000 a year, doesn't have multiple businesses, isn't, is just a regular Western Sydney guy with a small family, and you've gotten into the market with a 10% deposit. You paid lender's mortgage insurance to get you in. Okay, and then leveraged off that property, bought an investment property, then upgraded, got another renovator as a principal place of residence and renovated that and got into that. And that had some development sort of, at a granny flat, X factor features to it. And what this tells me is that anyone out there, doesn't matter what you're doing, whether, you're a teacher, government employee, you're just on, PAYG wages, and you don't think you have the money to do it. You can do it, and you can do it by getting in the market first, paying lender's mortgage insurance. Once you're in, this is the best part about property. Once you're in, you're in.
Yeah, that's right.
You leverage off that. You use the equity. You go again and again and again.
That's right.
And then you get to a position where you're at now, looking at, quite possibly buying that dream home with little or no debt
Yes.
at $2 million.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And then I guess we come back to that original goal. So as you said, that's the biggest bit, like taking action, getting into the market. And I think not only just getting in and buying anything, right? Like having strategic buying. So, making sure you surround yourself with the right people, such as yourself, but also like the right markets, what to buy, not over sort of capitalizing or overextending yourself. Those sorts of things are obviously crucial, as we know. But yeah, it's been a real sort of journey, and along the way, I've really tried to educate myself, and obviously the wife has really sort of been there as a really strong support, because without her, it wouldn't have been possible. Like even though she works part-time, like as you said, we're only PAYG employers. We have an income limit in terms of what we earn. So, even though we had the other property that we mentioned, the townhouse that was in the portfolio, but we sold that. We're sort of at that sort of pointy end of our serviceability, unless we've started really looking at either, selling off one or two assets or restructuring things in different ways. But it's been very straightforward. Like we haven't used like trusts and those sorts of things. It's just been very sort of leverage, as you said, and just sort of pick the right property in the right moment, try to get into the market at the right time, and then we've used that to sort of continue building.
Yep, 100%. And I think that's the best part, because whilst you're on PAYG and you're an average, athletically gifted though, all right, guy from Western Sydney.
Don't know that anymore, but yeah.
Yeah, we struggled opening the bottle. No, we cut that. You should cut that. I'm joking with you. Yeah. You have increased your net worth a great deal.
Yep.
Yours and your family's, right? Because you've invested well and bought 1, 2, 3, 4 properties, and your net worth is constantly growing.
That's right.
And that in turn is what's going to put you in a position to be able to buy that principal or place of residence and achieve that goal by the time you're 45, and you're gonna achieve that way sooner.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, and as I said, like it was just about having options. So we really just wanted to get to a position where we didn't have to feel like we had to work that sort of 9 to 5 or whatever it is till we're 60, 70 and just struggle to make ends meet. So I feel like we're now in a situation where we've got a number of properties in the portfolio in addition to a current PPOR, which we are going to look to upgrade in the next 1 or 2 years. And with the benefit of having those other properties in the portfolio, particularly the one in Brisbane that's done really well for us, we do have an option there if we want to sell that and take a significant amount of capital that we've obviously gained from that and use that as well as the sale proceeds from our PPOR to, as you said earlier, potentially buy what will be the 10, 15, 20-year home. The way we sort of view it anyway. Obviously life can throw things at you, but we've got 3 young kids, 5 and under, and we want to have that stability in that family home that they can grow up in. We're sort of looking at a similar area to where we currently live, and in looking at those sorts of prices that we're looking at, it is sort of that circa 2 mil or let's just say 1.8 to 2 mil in the current market. And to be able to sort of do that and have a property of that value with maybe only $100,000-$200,000 worth of debt on it, or possibly even debt free, is something I'm really proud of. And I know my wife's proud about it as well, even though she hasn't been as active, and I've had to sort of bring her on the journey with me. And it's been a lot of conversations and disagreements, but I wouldn't have been able to do this without her. As I said, like having not only her income support, but like being able to work together from a mindset and a team perspective, like that's something that I think is so crucial to whether if you're an individual or you have a partner or a wife or whatever it might be, husband. Being on the same page and working towards the same goals is so crucial. It's like yourself as a business owner and those sorts of things. Like, because once you sort of start going sideways from that, it makes it really difficult.